Hey, Jimbo, you ready for this deal?
Hands up.
Old stories like long lost friends, rodeos and late night bends, history before our time, round pens and pasture rides, cowboys of the Osage.
Howdy, friends and neighbors. Time once again for the Cowboys of the Osage podcast with your host, Jimbo Snively and Cody Garnett. Now let's sing a little bit about it. Cowboys of the Osage, riding once again. Always got some time for a friend. And here they are, the Cowboys of the Osage.
Howdy, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Cowboys of the Osage podcast, brought to you by the Ben Johnson Cowboy Museum and the Buck and Flamingo Turquoise Shop, both located in downtown historic Pawhuska, Oklahoma. It's old Cody over here, and as always, I have my main man with me, Mr. Rodeo Historian, Mr. Area Historian. We're done talking about him writing something, writing a review on a book, and it's published on the back of the book.
And by the way, we do have the Ike Rude books here at the museum now.
Yeah, we got them in stock, ready to ship to you now.
Get your order. It's a great book.
You can read all I've read is Jimbo's review, and it's pretty darn good. So I can only imagine how good the book is.
Yeah, the book's better than my review.
Morning, Jimbo. Who do we have here today?
Hey, Cody boy, it's a great day in Osage. And, you know, Cody, one thing consistent with the Western way of life and the rural people in general and the cowboy way, pretty much we always back the blue, you know, support law enforcement. We'd be in a heck of a shape without them. And we got one of the top law enforcement guys from the state of Oklahoma ever. He's a 50-year career veteran of law enforcement. He's a 10 years as the chief of the Tulsa Police Department. And he's got a lot of stories. He's kind of a law historian too. Got a lot of old outlaw stories, lawman stories, a few shootouts, and maybe a Wild West story or two. We don't know, but we're going to get into all that. And of course, I'm talking about Chief Chuck Jordan, former police chief of the Tulsa Police Department. And we're just really happy for him coming up here today and going to visit with us. And Chief, welcome to the Cowboys of the Osage podcast.
Well, thank you for inviting me. This is a real honor.
We're tickled to have you. Honor for us.
I'm just glad he ain't here after me, Jimbo. That's
we're using the Southeast and lawman rules from all that Will Rock. Nothing can happen until for 24 hours after this podcast.
Okay, sounds good. I like the way you're thinking, okay. Jimbo.
Okay, Chief, what got you interested in law enforcement?
Well, my dad was an Indiana State Trooper.
Really?
That's where I grew up in Indiana. I grew up in John Dillinger country.
Wow.
That's where he kind of thrived. But yeah, Dad was an Indiana State Trooper, and then he went to the feds, and he worked for the FBN, the old Federal Bureau of Narcotics, which is now the DEA, of course. But that's what got me thinking about being a cop.
Right. Oh. Well, how'd you wind up in Oklahoma?
Well, just like all of us, probably in this room, how do we end up where we are? There's a woman involved.
Yeah. There you go.
And
that's Cody's life story for sure.
That's right.
And so I came down here, and I got out in the military in November of '68, and was actually working at a gas station down in South Yale and going to a business school, and got robbed. And the detective came in, and good guy, Detective Dick Campbell, one of the best we've ever had. But anyway, he convinced me I ought to try being a police officer here, because I was going to, get my business school done and then go back to Indiana and try to get on the Indiana State Police. And of course, I met my wife and stayed here, and she's managed to keep me for 52 years, so I'm pretty happy. I got a good deal there. But anyway, and so March of '69, I started on the Tulsa Police Department.
Wow.
St. Patty's Day.
Yeah. Were you just on the beat, or what? I mean, what was your job starting out?
Started out as a traffic officer. I know a beat, working traffic, and
I read somewhere where you had an armed robbery the first day or something.
I did. First day in the field.
Yeah.
I had it was funny. I'm leaving to go out in the parking lot, and I drove eastbound, and at that time we were changing shifts down at New Block Park, which is about just on West Charles Page, and because they were building a new police station at that time. The one we're getting ready to exit now they were just building it in '69, and so I was probably about third in Harvard, maybe fourth place in Yale, and they put an armed robbery at the Quick Trip, which was down at Admiral in Pittsburgh. And so I jumped on. I got to thinking. They said he went north on Pittsburgh from the store, and I thought, well, he's probably going to come out on Independence somewhere, either on Yale or Harvard. Anyway, I get down there. He comes out of the store, and I see he leaves on Pittsburgh, gets on Independence, and comes out on Yale right in front of me. Gave a vehicle description. Got in a little short foot pursuit and caught him, and kind of took him back to my car, and I thought, well, this is going to be a fun job. I think I won't like this.
It'll be easy. And
Got my butt chewed for not having my hat on.
yeah.
there was a lieutenant at the time that was kind of notorious for that.
Yeah.
And I'd just been in a foot pursuit, and first thing he asked me was, "Now, where's your hat?" And luckily, there was another lieutenant there. Kind of told him how to calculate the cabbage. Said, "Look, this guy just caught an armed robbery. Leave him alone."
I had a boss like that one time.
I think everybody's had a boss like that at one time.
Yeah, we can relate to that.
Did your dad ever have any run-ins with old John Dillinger out there?
Oh no, he wasn't there. My dad wasn't that old. He wasn't
that old.
No, it wasn't from 20. But he escaped from the Crown Point, Indiana jail, and that's kind of infamous in Middle Indiana. But my dad did get to serve some warrants on Tony Accardo, who was a big mafia guy up in Chicago. They were having some grand jury stuff, and he got to serve some warrants on some subpoenas on some pretty bad guys.
When he was DEA, was it still prohibition then? Was he just going after whiskey runners or what?
No, this was in the 50s.
Oh, in the 50s.
Yeah,
okay.
he was going after drugs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Federal Bureau of Narcotics.
I'm in the wrong era here.
Yeah, you need to get up to snuff.
I'm up to snuff now.
Okay. We can talk about my grandpa if you want to. He was in that era.
Well, Tulsa's notorious for a lot of bootleggers and criminals that passed through Tulsa back in the day. You know, Ma Barker was Tulsa connections, and golly, I guess Bonnie and Clyde's been through Oklahoma. You know, I mean, why was Oklahoma so popular with outlaws?
Well, I think during the 30s, especially, you're talking about all the money we had here from oil.
Okay.
You know, whenever you have a society that's so rich, there's going to be people trying to come in and figure a way to get the money. You know, Ma Barker was the Barker Carpets gang was in Tulsa. In fact, they had a place down in Archer and Guthrie where they lived. She kind of got a bad rap. She really wasn't involved in it as the media tried to play her out to be.
Right.
Her boys were, and of course the Carpets gang, Alvin Carpets was. But
her biggest crime was just trying to keep them all out of jail.
Exactly.
Probably,
That's pretty much.
Should have left them in jail. They might have still been alive.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But and then of course we had Machine Gun Kelly, who was he came through here, and he came through here and actually got in trouble the first time for smuggling liquor into one of the tribal reservations. That was his, and he went to Leavenworth for it.
Right.
Got out, came back, and ended up trying to abduct a guy named Urschel, a big businessman out of Oklahoma City, and then he ended up going to prison, of course, for that. But,
there was a lot of kidnappings going on back then, wasn't there?
yeah, there was. It was, it was kind of a thing that is actually the Lindbergh baby that got it started, right. But the FBI got involved in the kidnappings just because there were so many of them for ransom, right. That people were trying to get for ransom. That was a big deal back then.
Right, for sure. Huh. Well, Ma Barker, they finally met their end down in Florida, didn't they?
They did.
Had a big shootout.
She came up. She got buried up here.
Really?
But yeah, she's in. I don't remember where they buried her, but she buried in an Oklahoma cemetery. Pretty Boy Floyd's in Aikens, Oklahoma. He's buried there.
Yeah.
And he was kind of an interesting character too. He was a bank robber, and he only lived till 30. Yeah, the lifespan wasn't real long
Right.
on these guys that age. He didn't.
Right.
You know.
You know, the funny thing about them guys, too, a lot of them, especially Bonnie and Clyde, they were better armed than the policemen.
Oh, they were.
You know,
They were.
Why was that? Why couldn't the policemen get caught up snuff on the guns and stuff?
Money.
Just money.
Just money. I mean, you know, when you're robbing banks on a pretty regular basis, you can afford to buy a lot of guns.
Right.
You know, and the U.S. or the Texas trooper or Texas Rangers that went after them ultimately, they got a lot of donations from a lot of law enforcement agencies to help. After they killed those 2 officers in Texas, they got a lot more notoriety and got a lot of help from other law enforcement.
Right. Is it still that way? Are some of the criminals still better armed than the law?
Not really. We're out, in Tulsa, we got every officer has access to a shotgun and or a patrol rifle. Most of them are choosing patrol rifles, and I agree. It gives you a little longer range. It gives you a little more. If you got to be a little more precise, you got better than a shotgun. You know, but good body armor. We're pretty lucky in law enforcement today. When I came on, I had one of the first bullet resistant vests on the Tulsa Police Department. Bought myself.
Had to buy it yourself. Do they still have to buy, or are they issued now? Okay.
No, they're issued now. Everything, all firearms, all the equipment's issued.
Right.
So.
Wow. You were on one of the first SWAT teams, weren't you?
I was on the first SWAT team.
First SWAT team.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be on our first unit. It was a big honor and a really good experience.
Why did they pick you? After you chased that guy down, they thought you need to be on the SWAT team?
No, it was I think it was a culmination of a lot of things. You got to remember, when you're building a new team, you're picking people who have proven they got good tactical sense. We also had people for our negotiations team. We had to have people that we knew were going to be good at negotiating, because that was part of the same unit. And so it was, like I say, we started out we got really good going in 80 or 78 is probably when we got to really moving along. Of course, the first SWAT teams you really saw were coming out of California. It was LA. So we kind of had somebody to look at to see what's going to work and what isn't going to work. And we ended up going out and training with SEB, which is Los Angeles County SWAT team, several times. And that was great training. That was a good experience.
Now, I can't imagine you were real busy. What did you do in between when they needed you?
We just had a part-time team.
Okay.
We didn't get a full-time team.
Okay.
No, I did several things. I worked traffic my first 3 years, went to patrol in for a few years, and then went to homicide on evening shift. And ultimately, after that, went back to patrol for a while as a sergeant, and then had several street crimes units. Did that for a while. Loved that.
Yeah. What were some of the big cases that you might have worked on?
I got lucky. I got assigned to, we had a serial rapist called the TU rapist, which was a guy that was hitting down around the TU area.
I remember that.
And at the same time, the shower stall rapist was hitting. And it was kind of interesting because their physical descriptions were almost identical. And so we thought we had one rapist. And ultimately, we caught the TU rapist. We figured out who he was, and followed him actually to a crime and busted him. And then I got lucky and caught the other one, the shower stall rapist myself, or not the shower stall, but the other TU rapist. I'm sorry. Got a call from a rookie officer saying, "Hey, I think there's somebody out here prowling around." I was working detective division. And called me on the phone. So I go down there, and here this guy is. And it turned out he had done several rapes, and he's still in prison today. They both are. Wow. So we got some good time. But anyway, I ended up with about 7 rape task forces before it was over with. Did the Brookside rapist, the Southside stalker. It was they're a different breed of animal, and but they're consistently do the same things. They're always window peepers.
Yeah.
That's how they gain their intelligence. That's how they get their thrills to get started doing it. They want to look and see if the woman's alone. They want to see, get them all motivated, obviously, with window peeping on them. And so I say I was lucky enough to get a pretty good handle on how a rapist thinks, because cops don't think like rapists.
Right.
Normal men don't.
Sure.
You know, you don't think, you don't realize that. You know, we think often that it's a sexual thing. It's an assault. Period.
Right.
I mean, mentally, it's an assault.
Right.
Yeah.
Were you old enough to get in on any of that Dixie Mafia stuff?
Not very much of it. No, I wasn't. You know, I watched. I got to later on during the Roger Wheeler homicide investigation. We went after. I can't think of it. A couple of people that were kind of big in that back in the day. That in fact, one of them was even there when Buford Puzzler got shot. I can't think of his name now. But yeah, with some of them, we didn't get to work them a lot. All the
A lot of it was Osage County. I mean, you know.
Oh yeah.
I remember them coming up. Tom Lester Pugh was one of them, and Rex Brindley.
Yep.
And Cleo Epps.
Cleo Epps.
Killing her, you know.
Yeah, it was Osage County and Creek County.
Yeah, right.
That's where they were.
I still remember, Cody, this Tom Lester Pugh, they were bringing him up to court there in the courthouse, and Channel 6 or somebody was there filming it. That cameraman was watching him, and he just kept getting closer. He kneed him right in the groin. I never forget that.
Did he?
Yeah, he was he was sorry.
Yeah, that was
a crazy bunch.
I was in patrol those days. I wasn't working. I didn't get to work many of them, but I sure knew about them. We all were looking for them at various times.
Rex Brindley, his favorite operation was dynamite. He blew several people up.
He killed that
lady.
teacher over in Spalpa.
Thought it was supposed to be her husband starting the car.
Yeah.
But he escaped from prison twice.
Sure did.
And one time Johnny Cash was down there performing for him, and the first thing he said was, "Is Rex Brindley still here?" He'd heard about that somehow.
He
That's a good one, Jimbo.
Yeah, we had who was it? Drew up that judge downtown. I think that was Rex.
Oh yeah, that judge. You know, I don't remember his name. But I remember that he got into it with David Hall. He blamed them, the governor, and Pat Williams, who was a friend of my wife's family, a lawyer. And when he got caught, he said, "I owe you two guys 4 sticks of dynamite when I get out." You know.
Pat Williams, I faced him in court. We were talking about him on the way up here, and when I worked homicide. I'll tell you what, you knew you'd met a lawyer when you had Pat Williams across.
Yeah, he lived here in Prescott at one time, and he was really my wife's dad's one of his best friends.
He actually lived for a while down. He lives about 2 blocks from where I'm living now.
Really?
Yeah,
really?
His house is down there. Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Heck of an attorney.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
I watched a trial. The Casa Bonita had got robbed, and they shot a retired police officer, Pete Annex. They didn't kill him, but he got shot. But Pat Williams was representing the 2 guys that pulled the robbery, and Buddy Fallis was prosecuting it. And man, you talk about a classic trial to watch. Right. I mean, those were 2 of the best attorneys I've ever seen.
Right.
It was something to watch.
Wow. Well, you touched on that Roger Wheeler murder. Mm-hmm. What can you tell us about that? That was a big deal, Cody. He was this big businessman, Telex, I think, in Tulsa, mm-hmm. and he was sitting in his car at the Southern Hills parking lot, and a guy or maybe 2 guys, I can't remember, walked up to him and just shot him in the head.
Yeah, it was one.
One guy, okay.
And it was I was an evening shift homicide sergeant.
Yeah.
And we were sitting at the station. It was an early afternoon, just coming in for shift change. Got a phone call from dispatcher saying we got a shooting at Southern Hills. And of course, we're figuring it's going to be somebody that does landscaping or the kitchen help or something,
Right.
And go up there, and lo and behold, this is going to be a life changer, and it was. Roger Wheeler laying in his car had been shot. It was one person did it, and it was. We had probably 2,000 at least leads within a week. I mean, it's just unbelievable, all the stuff that come in. And of course, the more leads you get, in a way it's good, but in a way it's bad, because you got to siphon through all of it and try to figure out what's legit and what isn't. But turned out it didn't take us long to realize he had bought into High Lie, which was the only reason it exists is for gambling, period. It's not a sport that anybody does any other than that. but he had High Life Frontons in Miami and up in Hartford, Connecticut, and organized crime owned them, and he bought into it, kind of knowing that, and of course before long they were skimming off the top, and he found out, and he'd kind of been a bigwig at Telex. You know, he'd beat IBM in this huge lawsuit. He really just, it was his company. He could order people around, and he didn't realize he can't do that quite the same way with these folks. And the Winter Hill gang and Whitey Bulger and that crew, they kind of had someone come down and take care of him.
Whitey Bulger wasn't physically here?
He was not. He's just,
Okay.
Yeah. And of course it was very difficult, you know, when you're almost a couple thousand miles away from a city where the order was given, it's kind of hard to continue to investigate it easily. And then on top of that, we've got the FBI in Boston assisting Whitey Bulger and covering for him. And we didn't dream, you know. I grew up in a time when my dad was a federal agent. I knew federal agents, and I assumed I didn't always get along with them, but I assumed they were clean. And the vast majority are spotless. They're great. They're good to work with. They're honest. But they had a guy up there that was in Whitey's pocket, and he covered for him, and kind of delayed us getting to Whitey.
How come certain divisions of law enforcement don't get along? You know, where's the sheriffs and the local police, or the tribal police, Okmulgee down there and the local police? And
yeah, that's something I don't know.
I've always wondered that, because you see on every TV show you watch, they fight over the jurisdiction.
I watched Die Hard last night. Watched the FBI and the local police fighting.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. Here we've been lucky. We have a very collaborative FBI. I've never gotten in conflict with anybody with FBI my whole career, including as chief, and I was on the Joint Terrorism Task Force. Never had a problem. Sometimes it happens just over, you know, you work hard to get to a point, and then when somebody else comes in and takes over, you kind of go, wait a minute, you know, hey, I wanted to see this through. Sometimes we'll get in each other's way during the investigation, you know, but TV probably makes it sound worse than what it really is, you know, as far as getting along with each other. Like I say, we're lucky in Tulsa, Oklahoma. ATF, FBI, IRS, all our agencies here are just very, very collaborative with us.
Cody, I might say that Chief Jordan is one of the most respected chiefs they've ever had down there. You can just bring his name up in any company, or anybody that's around Tulsa or been around Tulsa, and they all, nothing but high praise for him.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to throw that in.
You guys are talking to the wrong people. You know that, right?
Well, I don't know.
No.
Very well thought of.
Thank you very much, Jimbo. I appreciate it.
Well, the way I understand with that Whitey Bulger deal, now, he actually gave the FBI some good information, didn't he, about other gangs and stuff?
Yeah, you had
and
two,
they'd leave him alone.
Yeah.
Is that the way it worked?
That's exactly how it worked. He had two predominant, well, he did more than that. He also ended up giving money to one of the agents and giving gifts and vacations and stuff. But anyway, yeah. He had the Irish gang, which he was the Winter Hill gang, and that's who he was over. Right. And then you had the Italian gang. And yeah, he'd give up information on the Italian gangs, and you know, which is why as soon as he got to a prison facility, he got killed for being a snitch.
Yeah. He didn't last long, did he?
No, he sure didn't. He sure didn't.
He was in a wheelchair, Cody, when they brought him. 86 years old in a wheelchair. They didn't bother him.
Was he on the run all that time, or was he in witness protection, or what?
No, he was on the run.
He was on the run.
Yeah, he never got into witness protection. Well, he was in kind of a witness protection while he was there in Boston, because they wouldn't turn him over. It wasn't, you know, everyone knew. Of course, he denied it because he didn't want to be known as a snitch, you know. But that was a bad deal. Like I say, we owe a lot of credit to the Massachusetts State Police. They did a phenomenal job. They put a lot of this together for us and helped us a lot on it.
Are those gangs still active?
Oh yeah. Not to the degree. The Southies, I don't know if they still call them the Winter Hill Gang, but the people, some of the people are around, and some of the kids of the people that were there are around now. So any major city is going to have their gangs. They're going to have you know. The mafia, of course, is much weaker than it used to be across the nation. It's not, you know.
Right.
it's not as active. You're getting our gangs that we're seeing in Tulsa. We used to see a lot from the Kansas City mob down here, and now what we're seeing is mostly youth gangs. We're seeing some of the prison gangs that are out here on the streets that are mostly. Most of them are just dealing drugs. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
So.
Speaking of Whitey Bulger, at one time he was number 2 on the FBI's most wanted list. You know who number 1 was?
Osama bin Laden.
Osama bin Laden.
Wow.
That's something.
Yep.
He was wanted guy.
Yeah, he was. He was.
Yeah, SEALs found him.
Yeah.
Yep, they got him. I've always wondered, how the heck do they trace a bullet back to a specific gun?
Well,
You'd think that as many, a lot of guns would leave the same marking on the bullet.
no, that's all. Everyone's different
Ain't that something?
as it goes down the riflings. Everyone, both down the riflings, and sometimes even when the cartridges are ejected, they're going to be different markings. So it's amazing that
That amazes me because, heck, they're all made in the same place and they all look exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
You'd think they'd function all the same if they were shooting
like
the
a
same kind of bullet.
Just like a fingerprint, though.
Yeah.
They're all just a
yeah,
little different.
they are different. And thank goodness.
Yes, sir.
We've solved a lot of crime with them.
Yes, sir. It just amazes me they can go back like that.
Right.
I mean, they're unique enough that when I was there, we started a crime gun unit with the assistance of the ATF, if we'd go out to a call where there was a bunch of shots fired, no one would necessarily pick up all the casings. If no one was hit, and now they're picking up every casing because it very well, you might come up with a suspect and that could very well be used in another crime somewhere else that, that you could nail it back. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's, they're very unique. Both the cartridge and the projectiles.
Cody, you ever watch that TV show, Homicide?
Yeah, I've seen quite a few.
Was that started on your watch there in Tulsa when they got
Talking about First 48?
Was it First 48 or?
No,
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they. That's kind of a funny story because they came out there for almost a year trying to get me to do it.
Okay.
And I kind of hesitated at first because I was mainly worried about would it affect prosecution.
Right.
And I ended up getting with the DA's office, and they said as long as you don't do any shows until they've at least gone to a preliminary trial hearings, and so we brought them in, and it's been great for us. It's been really good for our department. Been very good, very positive. They're good people to work with. The production company, yeah, oh yeah, and I mean literally, I would, and I'm sure Chief Franklin does now. Would look at every show and approve it. And if there was something you didn't like, you say, nope, take that out.
Right.
They one time this guy called Tulsa the meth capital of the world. Uh-huh. No, we're not putting that in there.
Right.
We got a lot of meth, but we aren't the capital.
Right.
So, it's been really good for us.
Right.
It's been positive as far as public relations.
Right, that's great. Wow. That movie, The Outsiders, was filmed in Tulsa, and you were around when that was going on?
I was working graveyard sergeant. It was 82, and I was working, maybe 81. I don't remember when they filmed it. It came out in 82, I think. But anyway, I was working as a graveyard sergeant, and up by Independence and Peoria, they said, "Yeah, you got to come up. They're filming this movie. And it's kind of fun to watch." So I go up there, and I didn't know anybody. And Francis Ford Coppola, I knew who he was.
Yeah.
He was there in the director's chair, and I'd heard of Matt Dillon.
Right.
Well, anyway, they brought these kids ultimately over to us and introduced them all, And it's just like, okay, these are kids.
Right.
And it was.
You didn't know they was all going to be big.
Tom Cruise,
Right.
Rob Lowe,
Swayze,
Patrick
Swayze, Ralph Macchio,
Emilio Estevez.
Yeah,
it's just a who's who now.
It's just like,
Right.
can't believe I told, the starting of this whole thing, The Outsiders, the whole book and the movie was just amazing. The author, of course, wrote the book, and it ended up in a library in Fresno, California. a high school library. And one kid read it and was so impressed, he said, "You got to get more." And she's going, "If I got a boy in high school that wants to read books and wants more."
Right.
So they got more books out there. Ultimately, they ended up sending a petition to the director, and he did it based on their petition. What's his name? I just mentioned his name.
Coppola.
Yeah, Francis Ford Coppola ended up doing the movie because of that petition.
Right.
And I got to meet her down at the Circle Theater. Danny O'Connor brought her in to meet everybody. I just told her, I said, "Because of you, I met some of my very favorite actors
Right.
when they were kids, you know."
Wow.
But yeah, it's anybody that hasn't had a chance to go up there to that house. It's I always say there's a couple places you ought to go to if you're in the Tulsa area. You need to get to the Ben Johnson Museum, and you need to go to the Outsiders House
good.
because there's a lot of history in both of them.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I heard they made that. They're redoing the Outsider's house. What all have they done to it? Is
Well,
there a
they've
bunch of
redone it
pictures
complete-
from the movie in it, or they just made it back just like the movie?
Made
or-
it just like the movie.
Okay.
And of course, there's a lot of stuff. There's costumes and clothing from it and that kind of stuff.
No telling who you'll run into there too. Every time I see something about it on social media, there's always some big movie star there.
Oh,
getting a picture.
DiCaprio went there to see it. When he was here for Killers of the Flower Moon.
Right.
Yes,
I
sir.
saw that. Right.
What about Tulsa King? Did you watch that?
I did.
It's a pretty good show, really.
Yeah, it was. I liked it. I felt bad that Stallone said it was too hot here. He didn't want to do it
Right.
anymore.
The humidity probably got him.
Yeah, they said they're going to do another season of it, but they ain't going to do it in
Yeah,
Tulsa.
they want to do it here.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Right.
What the heck, Stallone?
Yeah.
Do we got a lot of biker gangs in Tulsa like they
Not like we used to have.
show in Tulsa King?
Oh no, not like we used to. Back in the day, we had, and I'm not going to mention any. I'm not even going to give them credit.
Right.
But we had a couple that were pretty widespread locally. They did a lot with. They controlled a lot of the dancers and the drugs and everything else. But I don't know about Osage County. I used to have a lot, but I don't think they've got the gangs they used to have either. Up in Osage County, it was. Yeah.
We used to have one of the first biker rallies right here.
Mm-hmm.
It was a
Right.
rough one too, I guess. I never really went, but
I
one
didn't
time.
either. I drove by it a lot. There's a lot of people there.
Did you ever go, Alan?
Yeah, I was over there for 5 or 6 years.
Oh yeah.
It's had quite a history.
Heard it was a big time.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
It was a wall dog.
I heard it was a wild one though. One of the
Yeah.
first of the wild mega biker rallies.
It was second to Sturgis.
Second to Sturgis for a while.
Wow.
It was a big one. I do know it was a big one.
Yeah, this was bad.
The Carter boys were over it.
Yeah.
Hollister was a big one for a while up in California, but it
Yeah.
was kind of a weird progression. You had the movie Wild Ones with Marlon Brando, which was the first time, which modern bikers would cringe because he's riding a Triumph, not a Harley. But that one really didn't have. That kind of showed the veteran mentality and how the veterans got involved in it and all that stuff. And of course, in the 70s, why most people who use methamphetamines would get prescription drugs, Disoxin and those kinds of things. Well, federal government stopped that, and that's when the bikers used the P2P method, making methamphetamine, and that's that kind of drove their methamphetamine and dancers kind of drove their business and what they did for a long time, really did.
Wow.
So, and that's kind of with the pot method and the way people are making meth isn't near getting used like it was for a while. Anyway, it's not.
Really?
It's not quite the drug now.
That's good to know.
Yeah, it is. Well, there's always something to replace
So
it.
yeah, what's the other choice now,
Yeah.
I wonder? I don't know.
Oh, a lot of opioids. Yeah.
Yeah. What about this fentanyl crisis that you read so much about or
Oh,
hear so
yeah.
much about?
It's an opioid, and it's terrible because
Right.
it's so powerful.
Right.
And people that are experimenting, especially, or sometimes people will mix it in with other drugs. And you're talking about a lot of deaths, a lot of drug overdose deaths from fentanyl, and of course it's coming in from across the border like crazy.
Right. Right.
Well, you see them all the time getting caught. This guy had enough to kill 50,000 people. So
Oh, yeah.
you just got to wonder what the heck's going on here.
I had a sister-in-law that had cancer, and she just had a patch, fentanyl patch, and it would knock her out, just not kill her, but I mean, it would do what it's supposed to do.
Right.
But it's dangerous stuff.
They got to really dilute it down or something, because it seems like a little bit goes a long ways.
I'd say so.
And the officers have to be careful.
Yeah, you see a lot of videos of just officers touching it, and they're passing out, having a drug overdose.
Guys and gals are now using rubber gloves on almost everything, and maybe masks,
Right.
just to prevent it. It used to be that way for us for the LSD. We've had officers that went on a trip that didn't intend to, just by handling LSD, didn't realize what they had.
Right. Wow. You don't hear much about LSD anymore, do you?
No.
When I was a kid, that was.
Oh yeah.
You heard a lot about it. Crazy.
I was just saying no generation, Jim.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I was lucky that.
Oh, I was too.
I saw a lot of people get on drugs, and then even today you'll see those time lapses of a young woman that gets on that methamphetamine, and within a few years she looks like she's aged 50 years. Just
no teeth and
scary looking drug.
I read somewhere where the yield sign was invented in Tulsa.
Well, one of my heroes invented it. Clinton Riggs was a deputy chief when I came on. He also taught the academy. He was a lawyer and did some time on the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, and then came to TPD. And this sign is probably as classic as you could get for Clinton Riggs. First in Columbia. I'm sure he was going to work going, we need something here, but we don't need a stop sign.
Right.
But he invented the yield sign. And, I was always so proud when I was over in Kosovo and all over Europe. I'm going, this guy's
It's over there
it's
too.
everywhere. Oh yeah,
Okay.
it's an international sign.
Yeah.
But
Does he have a royalty on that, or was he just
No.
just gets an attaboy?
He just gave it to the city and got him to make it. And no, he was very civic minded. He's not the kind of guy that would ever look for money.
Yeah.
He was.
I was basically teasing, but it seemed like he ought to got something out of it.
Yeah,
It's
you
all over
think.
the world.
But he was he was a tough instructor. You had to have 2 pages. He'd check. You better have 2 pages of note for every hour that he taught. You better have your 2 pages of notes.
Was there a lot of confusion when that sign first came out?
That came out long before I came along. But I don't think so. I think they did a pretty big media blitz, radio and TV blitz.
I got you.
So.
I got you. Wow. Well, you were 30 years or something on the force, and then you retired the first time, and then wound up in Kosovo. How'd that?
Yeah, I went over to Kosovo. I had a buddy of mine that went over there, and he said, "You ought to come over here." So.
Yeah, Alan was trying to get me to go to Afghanistan. I thought, you're crazy.
Where is Kosovo?
It's the old former Republic of Yugoslavia. It's one of the 5 things that broke out of Yugoslavia when it broke up. It's Kosovo, Serbia, Macedonia, Slovenia, and Bosnia-Herzegovina, and Montenegro also.
What were you actually doing over there, Chief?
Police, international police. It was a weird deal. My buddy was over there. They were going to bring me over there. I was going to be chief of regional investigations, which is a pretty good job. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. There's 5 police regions. And so I was over there, and I did I don't know how long. I think maybe 2 weeks. And then the deputy regional commander of operations came open. And this German guy, who was the regional commander, said, I want him. So I got that. The German guy's leaving. They sent over another German guy, because that was historically a German region for police. He didn't qualify at all. They didn't like him. So the commissioner guy from Denmark called me and go up to Pristina. And he said, I want you to be regional commander. So like within a couple of months, I'm the regional, one of the 5 police regions. It was, it didn't get paid anymore.
Right.
And I did that, and I was also the contingent commander for the Americans in my region.
Yeah.
But it was a great experience. It couldn't have been, I just had to do things I'd never done before. Had a lot of. It was a good experience. It was. It really aided me in being chief, without a doubt.
Yeah. Did you get to come home?
I came home
breaks?
about once every 3 months. I'd come
Okay.
home, yeah. Or meet in Mexico, so I'd still keep my tax-free status.
There you go. Yeah, shoot you out.
Well, that's something else. What kind of crimes were they doing over there?
You know, that's funny. It was, of course, they still had the rub between the Serbians and the Albanians from when they broke from Serbia. That was why we attacked Serbia. There was a war. The United States attacked Serbia because they were the atrocities they were committing in Bosnia, that Milosevic was committing in Bosnia and in Kosovo. So a lot of they have regular crimes like everybody else. We have domestic violence. It's kind of it's not a great country for honoring wives. So we tried to do a lot of training and teaching and trying to get that changed, and of course prosecution. We had a big, huge riot where the Albanians came in, were there, and they burned down Serbian churches and attacked our regional headquarters, and just always kept you busy.
Did you ever feel endangered over there?
You know, we actually lived in the community. So, you know, to say I felt in danger, probably not anymore than I would here in the United States. It was, you know, we were armed, and they actually liked the Americans because, you know, we were the ones that bombed the Serbians and kept them off of them, you know, and ran them out.
Well,
So, but we had to stand up a whole Kosovo police service because when the war started, the Serbians went back to Serbia. The Serbian police officers, they got out of Dodge. So we had to stand up a 6,000 officer, you know, police force for the country. Which the regional commander that I trained, I turned it over to him like a week before I left. So it was kind of neat. It was perfect timing.
well, when you came back, what made you want to get back into police work and eventually became the chief?
Well, you know, have you ever had your wife tell you you're going to do something?
Right.
Okay. You know, no, you're not sitting at home. You're going to work. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So I went to the sheriff's office and worked there for 4 years. That's where I met Ellen Lansdowne, who's a good friend of mine, and had a pretty good job. I was a captain over the SWAT team in the reserves. So I spent my days either shooting submachine guns or drinking coffee. Not a bad gig.
Right.
And then my old friend Dewey Bartlett came along and said, "I'd like you to be interim chief." And so I did. And
What did he have to do with it?
he was the mayor.
Okay, you had to win. He was governor too, Dewey Bartlett.
That was his dad.
Oh, that's right, Dewey. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I forgot that. Yeah, that was.
You're in the wrong era, Jimbo.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I remember his dad, but I remember him now. Just to mention that. Yeah.
He's got a pecan farm up here in Osage County.
Yeah.
No. But good man to work for. But anyway, it started out to be interim and ended up, I say 10 years later, I'm still there. So
Yeah.
it was, couldn't have worked in a better city. We got an outstanding population that's very supportive. It's just a good community. Great police department. The women and men in this police department are phenomenal.
Right.
So I was lucky.
Right. We had a good lawman up here for a long time, George Wayman. Did you ever have any interactions with
I
him?
did talk to him. Sheriff Wayman's one of my favorite people.
Yeah.
Good man. Good man.
Yeah.
Just solid as a rock.
Yeah.
Yeah, he. I had 2 interactions with him, and both times he was just, I was just a nothing. Once I was a nothing sergeant from Tulsa, and here is sheriff of Osage, the biggest county in the country.
Right.
And he was just very respectful, very nice.
Right.
Both times I met him. Yeah.
Osage County goes almost right to Tulsa, don't it?
It is in Tulsa.
Yeah, it's in
It goes
Tulsa.
to
some of it.
Edison. Goes to Edison Street. That's the boundary. Yeah, we're actually part of our city's in Osage County. Sure is.
You don't think about that.
You think about it when you're a police officer and you've arrested somebody, you got to drive to Pawhuska to go to court.
Yeah.
When you're working graveyard.
Did you have to come up here a lot?
Not a lot. I did, probably once every couple months or so.
Right.
When I worked at that district, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, of course, that's when the sheriff's office was on the hill too.
Right.
So we'd come up there and they'd give us coffee and take care of us till we got to go to court.
Right.
So
What do you think the state of the police work the state of affairs are now? Is it getting better? Work, public relations?
I think it's the defund the police thing has died down.
Right.
People realize they need us. We're making some changes that we probably needed to make that are good for us. Tulsa, we were kind of ahead of the curve on a lot of that stuff anyway. Like I say, I came on in '69. Wasn't a real popular profession then either, through the '60s. And then it just started gaining momentum again, and it'll come back. And it's starting to come back.
Yeah.
My great-grandpa was a lawman, Jimbo. Do you know that?
Really? Wow.
Sheriff of Quay County, New Mexico.
Really? Cool.
And then he was the first class of highway patrolman on Route 66 in New Mexico right there.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
That's cool.
I got his badges over there at the jewelry store, actually. For some reason, they're at the jewelry store.
I
But
think you showed them to me here once at the museum.
I got his badges and handcuffs.
Yeah, I think I saw those.
Who would have thought someone in my family was a lawman?
Yeah.
Half of the family stayed in it, and then half of the family veered real far from
Not as far as you could go.
horse traders. Horse traders is what they.
Okay, yeah.
My grandpa was a little bit of a gambler too.
Yeah.
Well, that's all he did. He was a gambler.
Yeah.
Chief, if you were making a Mount Rushmore of law officers, who would you put on it? Oklahoma law officer.
Bass Reeves would be one of the first. He's my hero lawman.
Yeah.
I mean, here's a guy that was a slave,
Right.
got his freedom, went back and spent the rest of his life serving the people that had enslaved him,
Yeah.
and dedicated, arrested his own son when he had to.
Right.
He'd be one of the first ones I'd put up there. Probably Wyatt Earp would be right up there with him. He'd be a good one. I have to think about that for a while. I have to think about. There's a lot of lawmen over history,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What about when Bass Reeves was over Indian Territory? What did that consist of?
That was basically everything from almost Oklahoma City to Fort Smith.
Yeah.
I always thought that's the reason we had so many outlaws around here, is because they ran to Indian Territory when they were in trouble.
They did.
From Kansas City or all these places, they were hiding here because regular lawman couldn't follow them on here. They had to be some sort of a federal lawman, to my understanding.
And he was the first black U.S. Marshal, and he was a good one. He had his hat shot, his belt shot, his coat shot. He never got hit. He was lucky. Ended up leaving when he left the Marshal Service. He ended up retiring from Muskogee PD.
Yeah. And that story of him arresting his son, that just kind of,
Oh,
that's crazy.
he wouldn't let somebody else do it.
Right, I know it. Somebody said, well, let us do it. He said, no, I'm going to do it.
I used him as an example for academy graduations a couple times, just about dedication.
Right.
About dedication. Yeah, he was. Of course, Judge Parker was an interesting character too.
Yeah.
I can't imagine being a lawman out of his court.
No, he had like 80-some federal
Yeah, he
deputies,
did.
I think.
Yeah, I haven't gone over there yet. There's a new museum over in Fort Smith, Marshall's Museum.
Right.
And I'm gonna have to go. I got to go over and see it. I've seen the old one and seen the gallows and everything that's there, but this new one's supposed to be really nice.
Right.
So I'm gonna go over there.
Didn't they film a lot of Rooster Cogburn back through that area?
I don't know.
Around
I know they-
Arkansas?
Probably. Wouldn't
I
surprise
think they
me.
did.
Of course, they say that Bass Reeves was probably the example for the Lone Ranger.
Really?
Well, it's kind of interesting. You watch it. He's got that white horse,
Yeah.
and he's got that Indian companion.
Did Bass have an Indian companion?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, another marshal.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But like I say, you can't find, and this was a time when all the lawmen weren't real honest either.
Right. Sure.
And they can't find a thing on Bass. He's just as
Now,
pure as Jim Snow.
Is that Taylor Sheridan's show? Is it out now?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I
it's
haven't
good.
watched it yet.
It's really good.
Yeah. Pretty historically accurate. You think?
Yeah, for everything I can find, it really is. I say there's another I think there's another show coming on about him too, another documentary. But he's
Really
been on the
interesting.
History Channel several.
Oh yeah, I've seen a lot of that.
But
Just amazing how that worked out for him, really.
I know, and it wasn't easy, to get the respect being a black man at that time. He wasn't. He didn't get the natural respect that other white lawmen probably got.
he earned it pretty quickly.
Yeah, he had to earn it with his gun probably.
Yeah, and they got it. And I just saw another thing that the Van Buren Historical Society is going to put a marker over there. My daughter and son-in-law and my granddaughters live in Van Buren,
Yeah,
Arkansas. So I'm going to go over there. I want to see where his land was.
yeah.
They're supposed to put a historical marker over there. That's why I think it's so funny to listen to the show, the TV show, and listen to him talking about going to Van Buren, and to Fort Smith, because that's part of my world now.
I think his son served his time and by all accounts was a good citizen.
He was. He got he didn't have to serve all of his time. He got
Yeah.
excuse me. Yeah, he did. He got out very quick, and there was never a problem again.
Yeah.
So.
I think one of the first lawmen here in Osage County was old Bob Dalton. He was actually
Yeah.
a lawman here.
Indian police. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, chief. Well, he went bad, didn't he?
That deal went bad, didn't it?
It did. It did. Well, there was everybody, so many of them were on the Earps were on the cusp of being bad guys sometimes too, and it's just, and the stories about some of the old bad guys were so inflated. Billy the Kid wasn't near as bad as everyone tried to make him out to be.
Right,
And
right.
Now James and Dalton, they were probably as bad as everyone said they were.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Did you ever hear any Jelly Bryce stories?
yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he. I never. Of course, I can't remember where I heard him. I can't remember who told me. Somebody told me about him.
Cody, he was an Oklahoma City policeman and was maybe the best shot of every lawman there ever was. Quick draw and just so accurate. He was so, if any criminal drew down on him, pulled a gun on him, he was dead. And back then, he was a real fancy dresser. And just all the time he dressed nice. And back then the name, slang for a debonair dresser was Jelly Bean. And he killed this guy, shot this guy in a shootout one time, and he went up there to him. That guy was dying. He said, "I can't believe I got killed by a jelly bean like you." And that name stuck, Jelly Bryce. And he was so good that the FBI
Tried to get him.
when they finally ended up doing it, he taught marksmanship, and he was the director of the FBI in Oklahoma City late in his career.
Yep.
But he taught people how to shoot. He was just unreal, I guess.
He was late 30s, early 40s.
Yeah, I think so. But he was out of Oklahoma City. But his stories of his marksmanship are just, I believe he could outshoot old Allen.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know.
He's the modern day Bryce Jelly over there.
Yeah, there's Jelly Bryce.
Oh, okay.
Jelly Bryce.
I don't know how Allen is with a pistol. I think he's pretty good with a rifle, though.
Yeah, yeah.
He's got the jelly part going right now.
I was
Sorry, Alan.
rolling it out.
Holy
Did you ever get in on any of the Mondor deal at all?
I knew Gary Glanz,
Yeah.
and I talked to him about it some, but no, I didn't. From the very beginning, that looked like a deal that I ought to stay out of. It was an Osage County deal, and it really didn't have a Tulsa connection.
Right.
And so we all watched it from afar,
Right.
and to see what would happen, and I don't know anybody that even had ever run into Chubb
Yeah.
in Tulsa.
Right.
I'm sure there was, but
Right.
you know.
Oh, that's a crazy case. Still crazy. After
Yeah, it blows
53
my mind.
years.
Yeah, I re-listened to part of our podcast from the other day, and I was like, oh, that's just a wild case, isn't it, Jim?
Yeah, it is. I wrote a song about it. I haven't released it yet.
Oh, you're gonna have to release it right here on the
Oh, yeah?
podcast. When you do, you're done.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to sing it.
Yeah, I'm not much of a singer. I'm kind of like those chief of policemen. I can't, or
Yeah.
Tulsa police chiefs. I can't sing.
Well, most songwriters aren't the best singers, but you can get through it. I bet
Yeah.
you can get through it. I bet you'd grow on us as a singer, Jimbo, real quick.
Tiny Tim, if he could sing, I guess I could sing.
Yeah, I think so.
Not right now. I'm just real glad I didn't write a song. You'd be trying to talk me into singing.
Jimbo's a heck of a songwriter. They just come to him.
Yeah. You had your son. You have a son that's policeman? Is that right?
He's retired now.
Oh, he's retired.
Yeah, he was
Okay.
a K-9 officer. I got a nephew that's a K-9 officer.
Okay.
He's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I used to work for the guy that's over the K-9 training for the state of Oklahoma now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we worked in a marketing gig with him for a long time.
Yeah.
Yep, had a pretty good time. Well, Chief, we appreciate you coming on today. Holy moly, is this guy well spoken or what, Jimbo?
Oh, he is, and just so well thought of. I'm just
Thank you all.
Really proud to know him.
Well, thank you guys very much. It's been, I gotta say, it's been a real pleasure for me. I got to tell this story about my granddaughter who wrote a paper at TU, or did a presentation at TU on Killers of the Flower Moon. So she's really interested in Osage County, and brought her up here to the Ben Johnson Museum. We couldn't have had a better reception from Jimbo and the employees, and to show us around this facility. It was just it's a wonderful facility, and it's just we really appreciate how nice you were to us and to my granddaughter. We really appreciate it.
Well, we were really glad to have you.
Thanks for coming and seeing us.
Yeah.
We
Well,
appreciate it.
anybody that gets a chance needs to come up and look at this. This is phenomenal. You know, I knew who Ben was, but I've had a much bigger education since I've known Alan Lansdowne.
Right.
And you know, it's to come up here and see all this is just amazing. And to you know, there's also some stuff up here about the Killers of the Flower Moon, and it's just there's so much neat history in Osage County, and it's definitely worth coming to see.
It's a historic place.
Amen. I'll amen to that.
All right, everybody. This has been another edition. See y'all next week.
Later.
Old stories like long lost friends, rodeos and late night bends, history before our time, round pens and pasture rides, cowboys of the Osage.